It's time now for business. Let's say hello to Kate Moody.
Hi, Francois.
And we begin with a story where politics, political pressure, and business interests meet. We're talking about the EU and its relationship with pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, there's been a lot of tension, I think it's fair to say, between Brussels and the pharma giants. The European Union has, though, confirmed it's buying still more doses of at least 2 vaccines. It's confirmed it wants 200 million more doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. That's on top of the 300 million that were already under contract from last year. The bloc also doubled last year's order of 160 million doses of Moderna's jab, buying a further 150 million this year. The EU has options to request still more from each of those 2 companies next year. Now, the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the bloc had ordered 2.6 billion doses of vaccines in total and was stepping up its drive to distribute them amid sharp criticism of the rollout so far. Von der Leyen also announced some 150 million euros in funding for research into those new emerging strains of the virus, a venture that will bring together the public and private sectors.
The aim is to use our combined strength to get ahead of the curve for the next phase of this virus, from the early detection of the new variants all along the whole chain up to the rapid mass production that is necessary if we have adapted second level or second generation vaccines.
Well, meanwhile, the British government has said it will provide vaccine certificates or passports for its citizens if they're required to travel abroad, but that it won't be making proof of vaccination part of its domestic agenda. Some companies, though, are looking into making the shots mandatory for their employees, a controversial stance that could flout rules against discrimination in the workplace. Yenna Lee explains.
Vaccine passports to travel abroad, but not to go down to your local pub. This is how the UK government sees its way out of the COVID-19 pandemic.
We're not looking at the domestic use of vaccine passports. That's not in our planning. As I said, as the Prime Minister described, it'll be the national vaccination programme combined with rapid testing that I think is the way forward.
Zahawi admitted, though, that private businesses could very well demand proof of vaccination from employees. One nationwide care home operator and a London-based plumbing company have already publicly announced no jab, no job policies. But employment lawyers are divided over the legality of such strategies. On the one hand, management could argue vaccines ensure workplace safety. On the other, it could be seen as discriminatory. Most of all, employers would be asking sensitive medical information from their employees. Meanwhile, major trade organisation CBI says the focus should be on workplace testing instead.
Workplace testing is gaining momentum, but far more firms need to be encouraged. That's where the business focus is right now, rather than clamoring for the introduction of a domestic vaccine passport.
So far, more than 15 million people have received their first dose in the UK, a relatively successful campaign that has boosted employers' confidence. Recruitment company Adzuna saw a 16% jump in new job postings between the first and last weeks of January.
Well, freezing temperatures and fierce winter storms have knocked out power and disrupted business across the U.S. state of Texas. Samsung, NXP, and Infineon are among the companies that have shut down their plants in Austin until further notice. Analysts say the closures will aggravate an already global shortage of semiconductor chips, which has led car makers around the world to slow down production. If the chip shortage drags on, manufacturing of electronics could also begin to be affected. U.S. shoppers increased their spending last month, boosted in part by a $600 government stimulus check. Retail spending jumped over 5% in January, compared to small declines for the last 3 months of 2020. Americans invested in electronics, appliances, and home furnishings. Much of the shopping was online, with internet spending up some 11%. Consumer spending is the main driver of the U.S. economy, accounting for over 2/3 of economic output. The Biden administration is pushing for another stimulus check to be included in a $1.9 trillion recovery package. Let's check in on the day's trading action now. Wall Street shrugging off that rather strong retail data. The tech-heavy NASDAQ is down over 1% this hour. The S&P 500 about 0.4%. Treasury yields are trending higher. putting pressure on U.S. stocks. After calming last week, we've seen the volatility index, a measure of investor concern, beginning to rise again. The major European indices also closed lower. Stocks in Milan and Frankfurt each down over 1 percentage point there. Shares of the luxury group Kering dropped 7% in Paris on disappointing quarterly results from its Gucci brand. Elsewhere, Francois, Bitcoin continuing its sort of meteoric rise to new records, topping 51,000 for the first time ever today.
All right. I'm still waiting for someone to explain that one to me.
I'm still waiting for someone to give me one.
All right. Many thanks for that. Kate Moody